So once again, I just want to welcome everyone to our May 22nd iFarm Ag Coffee Talk, and we're excited to have the AGRICHAIN team with us this morning. And what I'm going to say within that is, once we turn it over, I'll just let Brett from his side kind of do a brief introduction of those involved in the call, and we'll turn that over. I've got the slide deck queued up and it's ready to go. And what I'm going to do right now quickly is just share my screen, my other screen, and just cover off a couple of topics of the day that we find. I usually like to just some things that might be pressing as to what's cooking. And so hot topics of the day, again, as I said prior to starting the recording, seeding, some folks at 50% plus, some are done. The rainfall events have been hit and miss. We've got people that have had well over a half an inch or more, and that Moosomin South area, there's some folks that are going to take a little bit of time even before they can get back to seeding again. You go into Manitoba and that, and then we get north in that Shelbrook zone, and it's dry there yet. Lots of places are needing rainfall to get things rolling the way we want, but that's that. A hot tip of last night was that we had actually those little bugger grasshoppers spotted in some emerged wheat. And so we've got those things in play already in certain zones. So just have your head up. For those of you that have the Bateo or whatever you've got for canola seed treatment, I've got a guy that is utilizing his Given free product that they use because the Bateo is not doing what it's supposed to. So they're going to go and snuff off the flea beetles. And we do happen to have access to some bug juice if you guys need it for other things. So that's that. So don't ignore your fields. We have Captive Ag, which is our insurance product that's launching soon, and it's custom insurance. So we'll be in touch with anybody that wants to. And thanks for Carol for being on the call with that. We've got Clear Cost on, and just want to thank Keith for stepping in this morning. And there's the app and all that. I sent that out with the invite and stuff like that. But for those that are looking for some price discovery on bulk fertilizer and whatnot, I'd encourage you just to go ahead and take that in. We're exploring some pretty cool stuff with that. And at this time, there's some good pricing opportunities for diquat, glyphosate, glufosinate. Again, we've got the 280 glufosinate available, which does around 1,400 acres a tote and that. And it is raining a little bit, so that may translate into some fungicide requirements, and we can help you out if you need it. If you got it covered off with other means, that's fantastic. We want to let you know that we're at your service. So with that, thank you for that and quick indulgence. I'd like to turn this meeting over to Brett and the rest of the team from AGRICHAIN. And there's some familiar names I see with Andrew and that, but Brett, I'll just turn it over to you, and I'll just run the slide deck as you would like.
Perfect. Thanks, Dean. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have everybody on here. Happy to see some old friends, old faces on here, and some new ones that I haven't met yet. I'm going to just do a brief introduction because I don't want to steal any thunder here, but driving from Calgary to Camrose as we speak are a couple of important guys to me. I've just joined AGRICHAIN here, and I'm based out of Lanigan, Saskatchewan, just east of Saskatoon. But AGRICHAIN comes from Australia and has a long history there already, and they're lighting it up over there. They've partnered with Verigrain here, based out of Saskatoon. If you're familiar with Verigrain, an award-winning company with some interesting tools that, again, we'll get into in the conversation. But Cale Diederich is the CEO of AGRICHAIN, and Ken Jackson is the CEO of Verigrain, and they've recently formed AGRICHAIN North America, is what it's called. And hopefully I don't get into the weeds too far here, but Cale's going to speak to this presentation, and without further ado, I'll let him get started. And Dean will run the slides. Cale, just say next slide when you're ready.
Well, thanks, Brett, for having me. I don't know how much talking I'll be doing. I've been talking for 3 days straight. As you can tell, you can hear me okay. I've lost most of my voice, so I'm going to going to let Ken do most of the talking. But essentially, thank you everybody for having us on the program today, and thank you Beth for organising this. I'll try a little bit for a start and basically say that our system now, we manage as a first point of delivery somewhere around about 20 to 25. And unfortunately, with the drought, you can get across lower parts of Australia.
Can I jump in, Gail? Sorry. You're having a bit of an echo there. I don't know if you can speak straight into the phone or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how we can get we're on the truck system. Is it better? Is there an echo when I talk?
Nope, you're better. Yeah.
Okay. I think part of it is Gail's doesn't have a lot of voice here. So maybe why don't I jump in and if you can hear me okay, I'll tell the story. I guess you'll find out how well I've been listening to what Gail's been saying the last 3 days. But in any event, Ken Jackson here, the CEO of AGRICHAIN. So as Gail was mentioning, the AGRICHAIN is and to use your term, Brent, AGRICHAIN has been lighting it up in Australia for a few years now, and has about 20-25% of the grain the movement in Australia have gone through was tracked by the AGRICHAIN system in some way. So the kind of whole meeting of AGRICHAIN and AGRICHAIN, if you will, is to provide a much more streamlined post-harvest solution. So essentially, when we put the two companies' products together, we end up with a very comprehensive, very streamlined combine to cash solution for tracking the grain movement from the combine all the way to the delivery point, the sort of sale contracts, transportation. It's a very, very inclusive or all-inclusive system that just simplifies that whole process. So where the kind of how the two products fit together, or what the two products are and how they fit together, is at the sort of AGRICHAIN's focus is primarily at the grower level, and what where we started and what our goal has been for the number of years that I've been working on this and developing is to identify the grain with characteristics, both quantity and quality, but and also starting the traceability process with the whole goal of providing the grower with the data that they need, the information they need to get the most for their grain. So, I mean, it's kind of that simple, but the complexity and the problem, of course, is that if you don't have representative grain samples, which is kind of for the most part what happens now, if you don't have representative grain samples, you're not going to have an accurate analysis, and so your grain buyers, I can't tell you how many times grain buyers have said to me, if I knew what I was really going to get, I would pay more for it. And so it's just this inherent problem of having the information to make best decisions about selling, and having that trust with the grain buyer that they're going to get what they want, or what they think they want. So that's the sort of the simple kind of component around what AGRICHAIN is doing. Our solution it includes and it's sort of ultimate. We have a fully automated grain sample acquisition system that very simply bolts onto pretty much any grain handling device around the farm, including swing augers, pneumatic systems. Works great on grain baggers as well, and it's all programmable it connects with the smartphone app via Bluetooth to program the sampling interval, and once that's done, it takes the samples and it notifies you when the sample is complete. You switch the pail, and away you go on to the next sample. So it really solves that problem of getting representative samples, which is the thing I've run into over and over again. And everybody knows how chaotic harvest, and I can kind of make this comment without being too insulting, because I used to be the truck driver, and truck drivers are like the worst guys for taking samples, right? So you need to remove that requirement from from the truck drivers, and I think everybody knows that the main goal at harvest time is get it in the bin. We'll figure out what it is later, and and that of course just doesn't work. You can't pull samples out of the door. You got to get the samples while it's going to the bin. So the other piece that there are other component.
I'll just be able to stop it.
Oh, okay.
No, just go back and
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll just finish one more comment here on the Bear Grain product. Another feature that we have is a real-time moisture and temperature measurements while the grain is being sampled, while it's going into the bin. And the whole point of that is that to be able to catch warm, wet grain going in that may not show up either in monitored bin. It may not show up for a while or until there could be some damage already done. The other issue is that only about 30% of the grain that's stored is monitored. So you've got 70% of the grain that's you really have no idea what's going on with it. So that's kind of the short version of what Bear Grain can provide. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure what the slide deck is. I wasn't aware of the slide deck that was in our show. So, okay, so I'll let Cal jump in here and give it a go.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
I can hear you okay. There's just a little bit of an echo.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I've got the
So
phone.
guys, we moved around a bit, so just tell me what slide you'd like me to be on.
Can you go to 2, Dean?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
hold on that one, guys. Hold on that one.
So there's slide 1 and there's slide 2. Is that the right one there, Brett?
Yeah. All right, so you guys can hear me there okay?
Yes. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. So essentially, guys, in Australia, we manage, as I say, around 11 million metric tons of grain. We manage all the corporate farms in Australia. We manage all the mid-sized to larger farms in Australia. And essentially what we do is our system is all about managing every aspect of whether it's anything to do with bulk, any bulk grain, any bulk fertilizer, any bulk rock, anything that you want to track and manage your contracts and how much you should be paid, when you should be paid. That's what we do. We have a time slotting system that we run across multiple different facilities, whether it's Viterra, the Cargills, all the independent elevators in Australia. We've probably done around about $9 billion worth of transactions in the system in Australia in the last couple of years, and it's not enough freight to go to the moon and back about 86 times. But if you go to the next slide, I'll sort of talk a bit more about what it's about. So basically, what we want to do is anybody can have a spreadsheet to manage their stocks and their inventory. There's a number of rudimentary systems that will manage your, how much you've got in each silo and all of that jazz. For me, that's only part of the journey, and really probably not the most complex part. The most complex part is, once you have a representative sample using berry grain, how do you manage all of your contracts? How do you manage the valuations of your grain? How do you manage, when your trucks are delivering, getting that delivery docket so that it automatically comes back against a contract, so you know when you should be paid, how much you should be paid, and you're verifying those transactions automatically. So basically, yes, we do on-farm inventory management, and it's just all online, offline, mobile applications. The system that farmers use for us is the same system that our grain elevators in Australia use. It's the same system that our flour mills use, fertilizer companies. It's just a ubiquitous system that rolls across the lot. But our mentality is we don't want the farmer entering contracts. We don't want them doing as little as possible. Basically, you upload your contracts in our system and we will manage the rest along with your inventory, which field it came from, where it's going to. Doesn't matter whether it's your truck or someone else's truck. At any point in time, you know your position, you know where you're up to, you know how much you've sent off farm against what contract. You've got all your delivery dockets, and you know when you should be paid. There's a heap of other things. Obviously, with Very Grain, we can do automatic sampling and verification. We integrate with accounting systems. We have spot price integration, so that when you do over deliver on a contract, you can just type in, sold the last 3 ton, this price, done and dusted, contracts done. When you should be paid, etc., etc. I'll go into a little bit more in that minute. If you jump to the next screen there, guys. So basically, the message is you need more than just a stock handling tool. If you just want to manage stock, there are abundance of little apps that can do that, but there's so much more to it. The stress from my mind comes from how do you manage all the execution of that grain and your contracts and your deliveries and your receipts and all of that other stuff that gets out of control and essentially leads you to not knowing your position. And for us, that's what we do. We automate that. And now with the partnership with Very Grain, we can go back and give you the ability to accurately understand as a best representative sample what's going into your bins in real time. If you just jump to the next slide there, guys. So what we do is, essentially, once a load's delivered, the system then knows automatically, based on the contract, how much you should be paid, what your dockage is, and so therefore we can start to reconcile when your elevator or your end user or your customer or your flour mill says, we're paying you this much. Our system will say, well, hang on a minute, that's not quite right. These are the loads. Here's the data. It's independently verified. This is what you owe us. And so you can start to match things rather than relying on other people and them telling you how much you should be paid. Pretty quickly, well, what's going on? How many loads have I sent? How many tons have gone out against this contract? How much stock have I got? What field did it come from? What's the yields on those fields? And a whole abundance of other things. I'm just looking through here. There is a complete logistics module for those that are running logistics. You can schedule jobs and draw down against contracts. So your drivers just have an app in the truck, and they just load and unload against your contracts and draw down automatically. Are there any questions from you guys just so far before I jump into the next one?
I'm assuming you're going to address how contracts are loaded and things like that as we roll through.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, farmers have better things to be doing than jumping in a system and entering contracts. We don't want farmers doing that. What we want is a farmer, they just email them to our contracts address and automatically they go into the system automatically, so that when you're on the harvester or when you're in the office, you got better things to be doing. Just email them. We got a system that works 100%. It comes in and you've got it on your phone, iOS or Android, or on the web app. You've got all of the information that you need to start drawing down on that contract or manage your position. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if we go, if we jump, obviously we do a lot of fertilizer inbound. If you jump to the next slide. So basically, in the simplest form, if you imagine that you've tracked your grain, we're in talks with Agrichaian and guys like that to automate that process from field into the bin. But if you track your grain from the field into the bin, now you can use AGRICHAIN, you can use the Very Grain app, you can integrate both and therefore have the ability to have automatic samples and automatic data of what's going into what silos or storage or anything like that. Once you do that, you've then got to manage that contract execution. Now, as you know, most of the time that's going to come from your on-farm storage, but even from the field, if you want to manage that execution with your truck or someone else's, you need to be able to do it. One thing we find is a lot of systems out there do little bits and pieces of contract management, stock management, but they don't do everything. And therefore the farmer ends up resorting back to spreadsheets. So for us, we do the lot under any circumstance, whether you're starting in the field. So some of our guys that in the bigger farms, they'll have a mobile phone and a printer in the field, and they will log every single load out of the field. Load gone, and they'll track it directly to an end user or into their own storage. so forth and so on. But the bottom line is, once you've done that, how do you then execute that contract? So for us, you've got all your grains verified, very grain's done its job. You know exactly what's in each silo or bag or shed or bunker, doesn't matter. All you do then is, as you're doing contracts, send them in, they automatically go into your system. All you need to do is tell us when a load leaves your farm on our mobile applications, or your staff member or whoever, against what contract. Everything else from there is automated. If you can do that and say, this truck has left, and it's very simple user interface, against this contract, we track that truck. Doesn't matter whether it's your truck or not, it could be a third-party provider. We have ways and means to get the information. As soon as that truck delivers, take a photo of the delivery docket, it goes into the cloud, or delivery receipt goes into the cloud. We pull that data back automatically against that contract and bring the image of the docket and the data back to the farmer. Not only do we do that, but we also will look at that. We have a team that looks at that data and says, yep, that's no dramas, or hang on a minute, this is a barley contract, this is a wheat docket, we send you an email, what's going on here, check this out. So if there's issues that arise, we try and address that in real time. So we basically, or to stop from there, does that part make sense to everybody?
Makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Yeah.
So basically, and that doesn't matter whether you're sending grain from a field, whether you're bringing fertilizer back, put it all in the system so you know exactly what's going on. Because once that grain's delivered, it then goes into an invoicing section that says, okay, you've delivered 5 loads or 20 loads this week against 5 different contracts. You got 2 options. Do I want to invoice for this? Do I want to really step up and say, press one button and invoice these elevators and these end users and say, this is what you need to pay me? If you don't, that's fine. You can sit back and wait for people to pay you, and then use your guide as a reference to work out what's going on. So and then it will flow across to your accounting system. So essentially, if you think about it in a way, you have a lot of agronomic software that manages all of your inputs. You've got accountancy software. Sometimes they're the same thing, but really there's nothing properly that manages every aspect of the contracting, post-harvest, bulk movement side of your business, which is a huge part. And the biggest thing we see, the difference between the good farmers and the better farmers, are the ones that manage that properly and get everything they can. And to do that, you need to have great samples, which is where Very Grain comes in. You need to manage your grain. It's your key asset. And then you need to manage your logistics and your inventory. So that's the basics of what we do for a farmer. As I say, the other part that we do is we have systems for flour mills that have all full customer portals. So we know, we basically have software that runs grain elevators. We have software that runs the same set of software that changed a little bit for fertilizer plants, for crush plants. We have, and I've been doing some tours and meeting some wonderful people in the seed industry, systems that manage seed, seed farmers and seed retailers and customer portals and all sorts of bits and bobs. That essentially, the system will allow farmers to work by themselves and do everything they want. But eventually, as more customers come on and start to integrate, the data just flows a lot easier.
Kale, can I jump in?
What's that, sorry?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, jump in. Yeah.
One of the systems that I've seen, and I'm on a steep learning curve here, but one of the ones that really blew me away is, for those of you who are familiar with Cargill's scheduling truck system, that thing, AGRICHAIN has a module that does that without fail, and it's really cool. So we're hitting the high levels here, but there's lots to this, and I hope we get to explain it to you in more detail going forward. But that's a cool module.
Brett?
Go ahead.
Sorry, which module was that, Brett?
The slot, I don't know what you call it in Australian, but the truck slots.
Oh, yeah.
Scheduling, yeah.
Yeah, that works really
very
well.
cool.
We got a lot of farmers that do that. If they're not running trucks and they're trying to manage what trucks are coming against what contract ahead of time, we got farmers that use that for outbound. We've got fertilizer companies that use it for when trucks come to pick up, flour mills use it. Look, it really is a comprehensive system, and the beauty, one thing that we've never done is being able to help get representative samples. And so when you have berry grain involved with that, you're now pretty much, and if you bring in something like Agromatics or your bin scales, and we can automate into those, you really have a complete supply chain solution that doesn't mean the farmer has to sit there and type in stuff. We don't want them typing in dockets. We don't want them typing in contracts. We want them to sit there and manage what they need to manage rather than actually inputting the data, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Does anyone have any questions around that side of things, or do we?
I think we can advance through.
We've got a couple of questions.
Oh, there. Yep.
So let's do a couple of questions here first while we're in the middle of stuff. One is from Kenton. Does your system handle pre-harvest contracting? So can you preload everything in? I'm assuming that's what that means.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, that's the first thing, and thank you for that. And then the second was does the farmer have to end up running two programs? You got the Cargill program and the AGRICHAIN, or do you guys do some synergistic uploading into their system, or how does that get managed?
Look, it's an interesting one. We'd love to say that the Cargills of the world and everybody else would work with us. I mean, we don't have APIs with them as such. I mean, Cargill uses our system in Australia to time slot and manage all their procurement. Mm-hmm. But we do have ways and means of getting that data into your system if you need it to. So the answer at the moment is no, we don't have an integration with Cargill. But we do have ways of understanding what's being delivered there through the delivery dockets and everything else. So, I mean, if you're just delivering to Cargill, then, you know, you probably don't get huge amounts of value out of the platform, although, you know, at least you're still going to know where your contracts are. There are ways and means, to put it bluntly, there are ways and means of us tracking that. But do you want to elaborate a little bit further when you say integrate? What are the key things that you're trying to get out of that?
Well, I think the key, Kenton, did you want to extrapolate on what your question was? Do you want to hop off?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I'm from a computer background, and the theory was enter data once, you shouldn't have to enter it twice. And I'm just wondering, you know, if they enter a contract, you know, like are guys bidding on contracts entered into AGRICHAIN, or they have to have the contract in place before they enter it into AGRICHAIN? Or
yep.
So they still got to do all their bidding in the separate platform.
Yeah. So you might do contracts with multiple different counterparties. And those counterparties have their own systems, and they basically, that's where the lead contract is. Once you get that done, you just upload it straight into our system. So we don't want you entering those contracts. No, that's 100% correct, and we agree. We don't want you double entering data. I mean, you can rely on Cargill if you want to have all your contracts, you know, in their system, but you know, then you're wholly, I suppose, beholden to what they say. Whereas if you forward that onto us, it goes in automatically, and then you can manage your drawdown out of your silos, your stocks, and you know your position better. If that makes sense.
I think just to expand a little bit on what Ken, like something that comes to mind is, so let's say I'm a farmer and I'm an AGRICHAIN customer. I want to if I understand this correctly, you can get your system approved or pre-graded based on some, you know, sampling or whatever, so that you can preload. Let's say I've got 1,000 tons of wheat, and you've got the specs and this and that. And is there an opportunity for you to have all that stuff, and then you can determine when you want to sell, and then that can be shown to other folks? Like that, that's probably a completely different business model of some sort, but can the guy have all his stuff and share it or show it to other people and then execute a contract?
Yeah, I mean, there's the capacity to do that if you wish to. You know, there's certainly aspects that can come later on. Once you have your data and your contracts in there, then the world's your oyster. The hardest thing we find is a grower might do some business with Cargill, and he might do business with someone else, or Richardson's, and so they end up in 5 different systems with contracts in different systems and loads in different systems. The way that we operate is, well, we pull it back into your system. Essentially, as a grower, you shouldn't really be worried about what Cargill and the Richardsons and their systems are. You need your own proof of source of identity, I suppose, your own truth to know that through Verigrain, this is what I have on my farm. This is what's come off our fields. This is the samples I have. I've got contracts with 3 different elevators, plus a direct end user, plus a feedlot or a whatever, and they're all in my system. So I know in one spot where all my stock is, what the quality is, where all my contracts are, where all my deliveries are. That's it. And then that gives you your starting balance to make quick decisions and smart decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So basically your own inventory management system for the farm.
Well, yeah, your own inventory management system, but as I say, it's more also your contract execution, the ability to, when you deliver to a Cargill, your drivers take a photo of those dockets, or when you deliver to a flour mill. So you're getting the information from all of their systems directly into your system automatically, so that you know how many loads you've delivered. I mean, I think as we go further, and when we're talking about the value of grain and farmers getting bigger and their numbers are bigger, one load of missed grain or one dockage that's entered incorrectly by a weighbridge terminal operator, and you're out big bucks. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I much rather trust my destiny and understand that I know where every contract's up to. I know where every delivery's up to. I know where all my trucks have gone, and I know what I should be paid from anyone, not just the Cargill. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have an elevator next door and you just take it to Cargill, well, then you may not get the value that we talk about. But if you're trying to sell to multiple people and you're really trying to make the best decisions about your marketing, then you need to know what's going on to the ton.
Great. Good discussion.
Good question, Kenton. That summed it up.
Any
what Gail
more
just
sort of
said
questions
there.
on that one, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nope.
I think the next slide
Did you want
gets
to jump
into the
to the next
Verigrain
slide, guys?
stuff. Yeah.
So I'll throw back to Ken. Ken will just touch on the Verigrain side of things and talk about where it sort of fits and what he does to save time and give you the best data you can.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead, Ken.
I want to go back on. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. I'm going to jump in here. Ken kind of covered this stuff at the start of the call. So
Sure.
there's the
Yeah,
picture
he
of
just put himself on mute, so that's great.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
want to test them. Yeah.
So he covered this. This is the Ultra MT that bolts onto augers, cleaners, or dryers, baggers. It goes on with a real simple universal fix to get it on there, and that's where it all starts. That's where the samples come from. As you're loading into the bin, you got a weight from Agrimatics. Potentially, you get some data from this, and it goes into the bin and collect samples in that pail underneath there. Then you can put those samples in through a bagger and get a good representative homogeneous sample that you can send off to your seed testers and get it double checked. But if you can click one more slide, Dean. There's some of the other tools that the Verigrain provides to get a good representative sample, and that's what it's all about. I worked in the elevator for quite a few years. So did Dean. Usually we had a paint can lid on the end of a hockey stick. That's how we got our samples, and it just wasn't accurate, right? It could have been way out. So Verigrain provides these tools. There's a GrainSense live flow analyzer. There's a handheld NIR analyzer. There's a Smart Series sample collector. That's really cool. We won't get into the weeds on this stuff, but it just all tools to get a good sample. The mixer splitter in the bottom left there is about pouring your samples through and getting them mixed properly. So all that is right. We've got barcoded sample pails, barcoded sample bags in order to track it. And that tracks right to 2020 Seed Labs or wherever you might send it. So all that stuff is covered. And if you can go back one, or go ahead one more, Dean. We need to preserve the samples as well, and again, those bags and pails are barcoded. They're sealed so that you can track that sample right from your hands to the seed lab and make sure it's intact. Yeah, so that's a big part of getting that sample. It all starts with that, right? And then it goes into the system, and the AGRICHAIN part all starts with a contract. So those two things I wanted to highlight. And I don't know if Ken can jump in again and cover the bases, but he kind of covered them at the start there, like I said. Still not there? Yeah. Can you jump ahead one more? It might be Kale's turn again.
Can't, it's,
Yeah,
whenever
no.
no, I can't. I mean,
Okay. We'll let go ahead one more, Dean.
for some reason, I can't.
This one I wanted Kale. Yeah, I wanted Kale to deal with because Carol's on the call here, and Dean and Carol are working on a little something here. So if Kale could handle this one, it'd be great. Are you back, Kale?
Sorry, what was that, Brett?
Sorry, what was that?
We're on the carbon production estimates insurance slide right at the end. Can you speak to that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. So we have, through the system, we have a third-party integration with DAS Agriculture. Understand any deforestation, put any carbon metrics to it, and from that, you can do agriculture. So I'm getting a bit of feedback there. You can start to understand live production estimates. So these guys use big data and high analytics to work out, from thousands of different data sources down to a field level, what you realistically are going to be harvesting at harvest. And that'll happen from cropping time all the way through to harvest. So if you can automate that, now you may only use it as a ready reckoner so that you can check it against what you think you're going to harvest. But if you've got that across all your fields, you know what you're going to grow. Then when you start contracting, you know how much you should be contracting it at what point in time. And if you know that, and then when you start to harvest, you know how much stock you've got, well, that's your position. You understand at any point in time when you should be selling. If you understand what grain you've got, it just makes it all easier again. So it's all about automating that stuff that you're currently doing manually and you're doing with dockets and spreadsheets, so that it's just there in front of you. So if a phone rings or your broker rings or your consultant rings, you can give them a quick response and say, yep, this is what I've got. This is what I think I'm growing. This is how much I've got from last year. This is where my contracts are up to. Here's when I should be paid. Forecasting for cash flows, everything like that. Does that make sense, Brett?
It does, and I think it bears more discovery. Kale and Ken are on their way back from Calgary as we speak. Kale will be in the country for the next week or 10 days or so. So I would like to get you guys together just to talk about that, and more to come, if that's okay. Yeah. Next slide, Dean. I don't know if it hasn't really been said, but you guys know what the Libra card is and the Agrimatics system. That's critical to this, and it fits right in nicely. But more about that. The one thing I want to say is Verigrain has its own app. Verigrain has its own app, and so does AgriChain, of course. So we're not going to get into that deep again, but I just wanted to highlight that there's more to come. We can talk about this more. I just wanted to highlight there's two apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
There it is in a nutshell. Go ahead, Kale.
I think he might have dropped off on us there, Brett. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. I think you got it with the technical difficulties or the echo chamber or whatever. I think you guys got the gist of this. We need to discover. We need to get into it more. I don't know if anyone has any questions I might be able to answer, but shoot if you do.
How expensive is this system, Brett?
Good question, Kenton. I'm surprised you would ask that. Yeah. Again, it depends. Are you getting into varigrain stuff attached to your augers or not? Are you? Yeah. There's a whole bunch of depends here. I'm sorry I can't give you a big answer on that, but yeah, we can talk more about that. It's meant to make you money, so that's the whole purpose. Again, if you know what you got, you should get paid what it's worth. Is the whole premise, right?
Yeah, so I'm anticipating, Brett, that on lessons learned from Australia, that some what ifs can be built for folks that want to kind of dial in. Okay, I want to start with this as a launch point minimum, and then I can bolt on other stuff as it makes, the best as I identify those needs and that. And so why don't we talk about, I don't know where you want to go with this right now, but I'd like to know what your and Andrew's role is with how folks would learn more about this.
Okay, I'll start. My role is business development. My role is to roll this out to Canada, basically, with Andrew's help. He's backing up. For those of you who know Andrew, he's a data guy, and he's all over the back end of this. And we're on steep learning curves now, learning from. I think they have 50 people in India that are helping out, and staff in Australia, of course, as well. They've got tech gurus all over this thing. It's all about tech. So we're about rolling it out to Canada. They've got 5 years plus experience in Australia and have it, like I said, locked up. They're working with farmers there. They're working with end users there. Like it said, Cargill, I think Viterra was on there. So that's what our role is here, is to get that kind of a network rolling in Canada here. So it works good on the farm, it works good at the end user, and it works great if you can get them both on board, kind of thing, and track it all the way through. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brett. Yeah, see some familiar faces on the call, so good to be joining all of you here this morning. Kind of like Brett alluded to there. Yeah, here to fully support the development in North America as we roll this out. Obviously, it's been proven to have success in Australia, and something that I think definitely provides substantial value to both growers and end users, and something I'm excited to be a part of. Yeah, I guess my role as the operations and customer success manager, as we do build this out, will be to, I guess, go through the onboarding process, make sure that everyone that is enrolled has a solid foundation how to utilize the platform. And I guess it's my second week here, so starting to get deeper into the capabilities of the platform and what we do have to offer, and developing a pretty solid foundation myself, and look forward to I guess expressing that as we build this out.
For folks that want to, we'll call it, have a look under the hood and test drive it, like, can they download an app and have a look at stuff? And what's the best way to start having a look at things?
I would love it to see them download the Varigrain app. I've done it already, and you can see that it's cut and dried. It's a real simple app. We'll get them connected to the AGRICHAIN app as well with some more explanation, but varigrain.com, you can get that app.
Okay, so they do require both, is that correct?
Right now they do, Dean, but they're going to API them at some point. So they've just formed this company, right?
Sure. Cool.
And that stuff's being worked out, but that will be part of it. It'll be part and parcel API'd together. So
Yeah.
At some point you'll just need the AGRICHAIN app, and if you have the Verigrain stuff, it will be tied right to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. Yeah, I think I look forward to seeing more as it evolves, and there's some lessons learned already in Australia, right? And as they look at meshing the Verigrain system with it, it'll be worth, having another look at it, probably.
Yeah. If I can speak to Kenton's question there, Andrew will be taking calls, support calls at Central here, 8 to 5 kind of thing. If you've got a question after that, you will get somebody from India, and I guess if it's an emergency, if you can wait till the next day, Andrew will get back to you, kind of thing. So we've been working with them. They've been training us, and yeah, they can speak pretty good English, Kenton.
It's a good question.
Good Canadian question, yes, and we've all been there. Yeah.
And just thought I would just show this. You got a couple slides here yet, Brett?
Yeah, if you can go to the next one. Those are some. They're all Australian companies, but I think you might recognize a couple on here that AGRICHAIN is working with, and I don't know if you heard Kale say, or Ken, but they're working with 20% of the grain in Australia goes through the AGRICHAIN system. So that's lots. They know what they're doing. It's a work in progress. It's so huge already, and it just keeps getting better. We uncovered a couple of glitches yesterday. They put it right in the system, and IT people are already fixing stuff, right? So
yeah, excellent. Good. Do you have any questions, Andrew or Brett, to the group at all, or it's kind of an open floor session now at the tail end of things, if anybody has other questions about the presentation?
I appreciate the support here, guys, and the questions and the interest. I will follow up with Carol. I want to follow up with Bill. Kale's interested in talking to the Americans on here. So thanks for your patience, guys. I get that we had some technical difficulties, and this is all new and stuff, but we'll follow up with Carol, Bill, and maybe Jason at some point. We'll go from there. So I'll turn it back to you guys.
Great. Well, thanks very much. I think that was it was I know that the guys have a very busy schedule, so I appreciate them taking the time to be on for what they were able to, and you handled it great. And we'll just be kind of putting this up here as soon as it gets proofed. Jackie will get it loaded on our YouTube channel and on our website as well. And I'm going to just stop recording then, and we can just go to kind of open floor in general here.
Really appreciate you having us on, Dean. It's early in the process, and we stubbed our toe a couple of times or struggled through parts of this, but we'll get there. Yeah.
It's all good.